Good morning. Hi y'all, this is Stacy. This is walking in my shoes this morning and we're loving my veteran. You know, I have to have my coffee fixed before we get started. I just want to say good morning to everybody. Let's just say it was an interesting day yesterday, but happy to report that Key and Richard are doing good. Always makes me happy when some of our own are fine and getting through that ice storm. And please, that is ridiculous, the number of people that are without power and freezing. And just my own commentary, I don't want anybody to ever tell me Mother Nature is not a woman. She is, and she's menopausal. Because here, good morning, Shannon. Here in Southeast Georgia, it was in the 50s all day, low 50s, cold, rainy, icky. When I went to bed, it was 74. When I woke up this morning, it was 42. So, Mother Nature is definitely a woman and hormonal. A couple of things real quick before we get started. We have Thursday night, we do Let's Talk on Zoom. Please join us. We're going to have Boone there. Hopefully he said he would be in for a little bit to go over, talk about his book, FPL, Functional Personal Lifestyle. I think that's probably the best thing I've heard is this lifestyle for us is personal and it's got to be functional, and so I think that's incredibly important. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about. We have just so much going on, and I'm sorry because yesterday my mind was not on this. It was on making sure that Nakia and Richard were safe, and they are. And so we got through that, and now we're moving forward. So one more sip of coffee, and let's get into the topic: healthy, loving, lasting relationships and communication. So when we communicate, and remember, a lot of this is about our own self-growth, because our self-growth will expand to our relationship self-growth. When we communicate, we have to be in that mindset to communicate. Even talking to yourself, and we all talk to ourselves, and I know the thing about people are crazy when they say, oh, we talk to ourselves. When we make a decision to do something, morning, Michelle. When we make a decision to do something, our attitude at the time we make that decision directly affects the decision we make. Okay? So, how many times have we been mad or pissed off or angry and we're like, I'm just going to quit. I'm done. I'm going to quit and you regret the decision you made in your communication because your mindset was not where it needed to be able to communicate. Even when you're talking to yourself about making a decision and what affects your life, if you're in that negative place, your mindset is completely different. So when you communicate, your mindset is not where it needs to be. So just think about this. Come on, Major. Think about this as you're going forward. Our mindset in communication is extremely important. It is important when we make decisions for ourselves. So when we're communicating to ourselves, do I want to do this? And we all contemplate a decision. Okay? Do I want to do this? Do I don't want to do this? If we're in a good mindset, we might even weigh the odds out. But if we're in a mad, angry, pissed off mindset, we become, as Carl puts it, a knee-jerk reaction, and we make a bad decision. Because our mindset in communication is incredibly important, and we don't do that. Think about the world's events. I'm not going to get political on this, okay? But I did watch the 11-minute clip that they played at the end of the impeachment trial. I went and Googled it. I didn't watch it during the trial. Can I please tell you that when you hear bomb the White House, beat somebody in the face until they're dead, fight, stand up and kill the police, What mindset does that set for a tone? And I'm not saying one side or the other did, I don't care. But what mindset does that fuel us with? What mindset does that give us? No wonder our veterans are on edge. This is the country they loved and they fought and they protected, and the mindset is this country is now full of hate. Where does that put us as a country? It puts us at odds with each other. Our mindset is not to love each other. Our mindset is to fight, to hate, to beat them in the face till they're bloody, to blow them up, to kill the police officers, to not respect a veteran, to not respect our flag. That's the mindset that this is creating. And we can buy into it or not. Because the truth is that nobody has mind control today. Nobody has mind control to us today. Michelle's right. We have a choice how we respond to negativity and hate. So we can make that difference in our mind first. Set our tone. Do I have to like what's going on a national level? No. Do I have to like what's going on down the road? No. Do I have to like what's going on wherever? No. But what I do have the control over is what's in my mind and how I approach it. And we're going to use yesterday as an example. When I get that phone call from Nakia who says, I am freezing, I need help. Now she's in Texas, I'm in Georgia, okay? And like I can just run next door and load her and Richard up. All the roadblocks that she faced and all the stuff that we faced when we were starting to make these phone calls, even from putting a message out to other groups that said, hey, we need help calling resources, became judgmental. Well, why didn't she have this? And why didn't this happen? And why didn't you just call 911? And why didn't you call EMA? Look, that was my job in the past. I've done all that. It didn't work. They weren't there. There weren't any open shelters because of COVID. I could have gotten so mad that when I finally got somebody on the phone, I could have screamed and hollered and yelled, and I didn't. I'm like, we need your help. This is what we have. How do we help these people? And the Army came to her, basically, an army of firefighters and EMS and police officers, and helped her dig her car out and got her and Richard to safety. But the mindset that we had going into getting her help played a big role in having a positive outcome. We can't fix this world, but we can fix how we approach things. Same thing in our relationship with our veterans. When we go to communicate with them, if our mindset, because of events, and I'm not saying you caused them, because we don't cause the events in the world, okay? We don't cause the events in the country. We're not the ones calling whoever to go riot somewhere. But when our mindset is negative because of the events going on in our house, how we respond becomes negative. And we get tired, and we get angry, and we get hateful, and we get bitter, and we get resentful. Just stop. Get your mind right. So you may not have to respond to that question right then. You may not have to address a situation immediately. You may need time to step back and get your mind right. Because our mindset plays a role in what we do. We're never going to fix the major problems in this world. How many of us have complained about the VA and the VA system and gotten angry and said our veterans are treated this way and they shouldn't be? Now, some of us have had great experiences, so I'm not discrediting that. But how many of us have taken the negativity and said it, but we're choosing not to do anything about it? We have an avenue. It's there. We can do that. Same thing happens in the positive outlook. I had such a great experience yesterday with AMR. They're the ambulance service who does Wichita Falls, Texas. And when I got done and everything had kind of settled down, I sent AMR a message and just said how amazing they were. And what did they do? They sent me back a thank you. We're sending it out to our crews. So here these people are freezing their tail off and they get a positive message back because my mindset was that of Thanksgiving. It was of being thankful. It was of telling somebody, hey, you did a good job. So we have that ability. But when we don't address a problem in a positive way, you can have a problem. We all have them. We all get frustrated. We all feel like we have mountains to climb. But if you've got a problem with the VA, then write it down. Send it to the avenue we have to go testify to make a change. If you have a positive experience, write it down. Send it so we can give them the positive accolades that you're doing something right. Because we all want to hear we're doing something right. Same thing in the mindset when you communicate with your veteran or when you communicate with your children or when you communicate with anybody. Michelle and I were talking about our granddaughter and how her mom said, how her granddaughter's mom said, well, you need to come get her because she's being horrible. Well, she has a new baby in the house. Well, of course she's being horrible. Because right now, they're making a big old fuss over Trace, which they should. But what happens to Hazley? She doesn't feel like she's included, so what does she do? She acts bad because bad behavior still gives you attention because they're going to correct you. And some attention, whether it's to negative behavior, is better than no attention. That's the mindset we live in. That's how we as human beings function. So create a positive mindset when you're going in and you're going to get a totally different outcome. That's hard for me because I am one of these people. And it's funny when Carl and I will be talking about a situation and it doesn't have to do with the house necessarily. And both of us are mad over something and we're going to go deal with these people. A prime example, we changed his phone number. We didn't change mine. And T-Mobile changed my number, which just totally blew me into a new place because I use it for work. And I was so mad and I was ready to cuss those people out. And Carl's in the background going, it's their fault. And we're hearing this. And so when I get this really nice girl on the phone, I had to take a deep breath and remember that she isn't the one who changed my number. She was going to help me fix it. So my mindset, even though I was angry about the situation, the way I communicated with her had to be different. Carl and I'll go somewhere and I'm bitching and complaining about something and he is. And when we get in front of the person, he's like sugarcoating these people, right? So I get back in the car and I'm like, what the hell? I thought you were mad. And he said, Southern Proper, baby. And did we get our answer? I said, well, yeah. And he says, okay, it's the way we approach it. And I'm like, huh. So it's taken me a long time because I'm this knee-jerk, let's respond person. But our mindset makes a difference. How we approach things makes a difference. Yes, we get frustrated. Yes, we beat our head up against the wall. Yes, we get angry. But when we keep all that anger in us and it makes us angry and bitter, the way we communicate comes across as angry and bitter. So just think about your life. And right now, a lot of us in a situation with our veterans, or a lot of people in the situation with anybody, your parents, your kids, whatever, we feel attacked, right? We feel belittled. So we feel like our value is down. We're angry, we're tired, we're frustrated, right? But when our mindset is negative, we're going to feed back that negative. And you're never going to elicit a positive change if all you do is feedback negative. Negativity breeds negativity. So when we get into communicating, the very first thing we have to understand is mindset matters. We can learn all the great communication skills of the world, but if we don't communicate with a positive mindset, they're going to turn off. Everybody's going to turn off. Nobody listens. Negativity breeds negativity and it gives you a negative response. Why do you think that riots happen. Riots don't happen. Most people come to a rioting situation or to a situation that turns into a riot to peacefully protest. Most people. They come because they have something they're passionate about and they want their voices to be heard and they want to show up in force. And you can think about anything, whether you want to think about the Capitol situation. There were 1 million people there. 1 million people didn't go into the Capitol, a select few did. But if that negativity just kept spreading through that whole crowd, we wouldn't even have a Capitol to look at. So your mindset matters. It breeds that negativity. It happens. That's how riots happen. That's how stuff happens because there's so much negativity and people get caught up in that negative moment and then they just run with it and that's how it happens. So if we're angry, and there are times, trust me, y'all, we have a right to be angry every single day. We have a right to be angry about things the way they are. We have that right. We talked about that under rights last month. We have that right. But if we go in angry, what are we going to get back? How is our message going to come across? BJ just put in here, you can catch more flies with honey than you can with vinegar, and that's absolutely true. So when we're talking about communicating with our veteran, okay, we're going to talk about communicating with our veteran at this point. When you go to communicate with your veteran, you've got to remember the limitations we've already talked about. They are programmed to be a warfighter. They are programmed for a mission. Their mission is 2 or 3 objectives at a time. All right? When we get angry and we look at all the things that we just feel that they need to change and it's finally overwhelmed us and we have a laundry list of like 16 pages that we just want to go and yell about, we know they can't communicate that way. So going with 16 pages only sets us up for failure. 1 or 2 things gives us the best chance at success. They also can't be broad. You can't say, I'm tired when you yell at me. Okay. Well, they yell for a lot of reasons. If you're standing on the side of the road and a car speeding towards you, they're going to yell at you to get out of the road. When you have an argument that is not a PTSD explosion and you're yelling back, or you're yelling first, of course they're going to yell back to be heard. So you have to be specific in your conversation. I know the very first one Carl and I had was, okay, honey, and it took me days. I was so angry about the PTSD moments where the rage started. And most of y'all understand what I'm saying about the rage. The things that get slammed down, the attitude, the whole change of your breathing. It's almost like you watch somebody else possess them kind of attitude that was coming on. I was tired of it. I was sick of it. I was tired of it. You know, there were times he would go off and he would be by himself in the garage and I come out and I'm like, hey baby, you okay? And it's like, I'm in space right now. Okay. Well, you know, it's been like 72 hours. You hungry? And I was tired of it. And I wanted to go in here with this laundry list of like, I'm tired of that. You know, one of the things we talked about was always eating dinner together. I'm tired of waiting till 1 o'clock in the morning to eat until you get in the mood. I'm tired of going to bed by myself. I'm tired of you yelling. I'm tired of things getting slammed around. I'm tired of doors getting slammed. I mean, I had this list, like ugly list, right? And I had wrote it and I was like, okay, I'm gonna psych myself up for this conversation. And then I realized mission, 2 things, okay? So now I'm going to him with the two things that bother me the most. And he's never laid his hands on me in anger. Never. Okay, but that's my trigger from a past relationship, and I just don't want that to happen, so I wanted to set that ground rule because I didn't know where he was going. I was watching his rage at times increase, and I just wanted him to know he's never going to lay his hands on me in anger. Okay, he can lay his hands on me in passion, but it's never going to be in anger. And so as I'm going through this, I'm making my list and I'm writing it down, and I got this stuff, and I had practiced and I had rehearsed, and I was going to go in the morning after we had coffee when it's kind of, mellow, and I did learn that he has to have at least 1 cup, possibly 2, and at least 2 cigarettes before I even start a conversation, because anything before that is invading his wake-up time. So I knew I couldn't do it then, and everybody has a different time to communicate, so you pick the time that's right for you. But when I went in, I had practiced this speech, and all of a sudden I realized that if I went in and I started talking to him about his faults first, it wasn't going to be very positive, because I'm pointing out the negative, and I'm bringing up, well, when you get in this situation, when you get this mindset about you, when you do this, I feel this. And I'm like, ooh, now what am I doing? I'm taking somebody who already feels, as a typical PTSD veteran, already feels like some of the things they've done make them unworthy. So now I'm going to point out more flaws. That's going to go over well. And so all of a sudden I said, you know what? I'm going to approach this differently. And so we went in and we had our coffee and we were watching the hummingbirds and everything was good. And I said, hey baby, we really need to talk. He's like, okay, what about? And so I remember that conversation, and I said, we've been in places a lot lately. Places that I don't want to be in, and I want to be in this relationship, but just places I don't want to be in. And we both said some hurtful things, and it appears that I'm triggering you at times. What is one thing I do that triggers you? Okay, so it appears to me, I'm taking ownership of how I interpret it, that I may do, taking ownership again, something that triggers you. So now I'm working on the solution here. And so he told me, it was like when you yell. Now, y'all know, you've heard me say this, yelling is very hard for me not to stop, not to do, but I'm working on it. So we talked about that, and we talked about how that triggered him. And I said, okay, well, I have one thing. And I know you have never done this to me, but this is me personally from what I have experienced in the past. I understand the rage, and I understand it happens and there's frustration, but I cannot live if you ever lay your hands on me in anger. You haven't done that, but I took ownership, cannot stay if you've ever laid your hands on me in anger. That was the very beginning of us learning to communicate effectively. I did it with a positive mindset because I expected a positive outcome. I didn't do it when we were in the middle of an argument, which was huge, because I can't tell you how many times I spewed stuff out in the middle of an argument, and I can't even tell you what I said. Carl can remember it all. I can't even tell you what I said, because in that spewing moment, I don't remember, because I'm angry, and when anger takes over, I don't remember what comes out of my mouth. I don't think any of us do. Just anger is there, so we're just like spitting it out, right? But that was the beginning, and we literally talked like that. And from that moment on, we could start to communicate. And it was little steps. I mean, it was that little. And so even if we had an explosion and I yelled, afterwards, after we had all kind of calmed down, I'd look at him and I said, I yelled. I triggered you. I'm sorry. Okay, so I took ownership for what I did. And then what I found is that he came back and said, I was in a place I never should have done that. I'm sorry. So that was the beginning of opening up communication. But when we started, it had to be in a mindset that we weren't in anger. And in a mindset that we are the ones who can elicit change. We can't change the world at the top of the level. What we can change is in our daily mindset and our daily lives. And doing something for somebody else in a positive, helpful, loving manner will change the mindset of the world. I was talking to Dale Thomas, and she posts a lot of stuff on our page, the uplifting, patriotic stuff, and Dale's been in a heavy place because she just sees that this country is not what it was, and I find that I agree with her. But I told her yesterday, I messaged her yesterday, y'all know it's no secret, I grew up in Yorktown, Virginia, where the last big battle of the Revolutionary War was, and that's where the British surrendered to the American troops. Well, growing up there, I learned a lot about history that happened there. And do you know, on Sundays, I find this amazing, they literally battled in redoubts, is what they were called, bunkers for a better term, in bunkers that were probably 2 city blocks apart. That's how close they were, and fighting right down in the middle and all this blood. But when Sunday morning came, when sunrise on Sunday morning came, both sides laid down their weapons. Both sides crossed into that space that may have had blood and death the day before. And they came together, and the townspeople of the county of Yorktown and of the county and the neighboring farms cooked for all the troops. And they would worship together, and they would eat together. So no matter how violent the battle was, they could find common ground when they put down the weapons and stopped fighting to break bread together. And so no matter how, I think that gives me this hope for everything in our relationships. It gives me this hope that no matter how bad we think things are, there's a common ground, regardless of what we choose it to be, where we can lay down our anger and our bitterness and our pain and come together. And it starts with us and our mindset. It starts with us communicating with our veteran better. It starts with us communicating with other people in our lives better. It starts with us helping each other out and going back to the fact that we need to simply fight these battles and help each other one person at a time and communicate in a positive manner, one thing at a time. Do we deal with a lot of crap? Yes. Do we deal with a lot of negativity in this life that we choose to live? Yes. Do we fight with the VA and healthcare and getting them committed to go to treatment? Yes. Do we deal with all of that? Absolutely. Do we deal with explosions? Absolutely. But our mindset will allow us to lay down those weapons and come together. We don't have to agree on anything. We don't have to agree on politics. We don't have to agree on religion. We don't have to agree on any of that. But laying down our weapons of anger and coming together in a positive mindset and agreeing to treat each other like human beings makes the difference. Check on your neighbors. Check on your veteran. Check on each other. Get into your positive mindset. And if you can't, message one of us, post it to one of us. We will help you get in that mindset. It's not easy. I'm not telling you I'm always happy, because I'm not. But happiness is a choice, and that mindset is a choice. And I'm telling you, when you choose happy as many times as you can, you'll find your life improves. Your attitude improves. The negativity goes away. And the problems you think were a mountain that you couldn't solve become less. Because one of the biggest issues in our mountains is the mountain of negativity. And that's where we have to be. We have to be in this mindset. And it comes from within. Carl doesn't make me in a good mood. I make me in a good mood. Does it help that he's in a good mood? Absolutely. Does it help that he listens to me when I struggle? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, at the end of that moment, at the end of whatever, the only person who controls my mind and my mindset is myself. That's it. He can't control that. Nobody can. I'm telling you, this year has been a tough year. It's also been the most empowering year I've ever had. Learning to get naked and tear myself apart and realizing that I wasn't a horrible monster like I thought I was. And opening up and realizing that there was a lot of good that I had, but I was coming across with a crappy ass attitude all the time. And when I started to get rid of the negative, so much more positive happens. I'm not saying life is easy, because it's not. I'm not saying that this relationship is easy, because it's not. What I'm saying is your attitude sets the tone. You guys are the inspiration. You uplift me. We as a community uplift each other. And taking care of ourselves and our community, that matters. And that's what will grow us into a stronger community down the road. Girl, 30 hours, no electricity. You are still warm at your sister's, right? Nakia's on here. She better be at her sister's where she's warm. Our mindset matters. Our attitude of gratitude matters. Those are all the things that matter. So I want to end this on that and get you in a happy mindset. Choose happy. Choose this life. No matter what negativity you're faced with in a day-to-day thing, you can find the positive and you can choose happy. And you can look at your blessings. And when you start to change your negative attitude into positive, I'm not saying you're not going to have negative times. I'm not saying you're not going to have hard times. But when you change the way you respond, and if you're in that negative place, walk away and get your head clear before you go into a conversation, that will matter. And you will be able to communicate with your veteran, but first you got to sit there and you've got to be able to communicate in a positive way with yourself. And that's the key. And I wish, instead of people trying to teach me my ABCs and my colors, that as a little child I would have learned this. because I'm telling you, my life, some of the struggles in my own life were me. And Carl tells me a lot of the times when we get into it, you need to get out of your own way. And I do. It's my negativity that gets in my way. So I hope everybody has a blessed day. Again, a lot coming up. We're kind of in overwhelmed mode here, so I'm going to take today to get myself back together where it needs to be. Thank y'all for being part of this community. Thank y'all for being part of our family here. You have no idea how important that you are to all of us. So try to stay warm. We don't realize the importance of warmth. Try to stay warm. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Have a great day.